All right, it looks like we're live. What? George is already there with a comment. Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and welcome to another live video here on YouTube. This should be another good one, especially if you are knowing a lot of English, if you know a lot of English but you still struggle to speak. I want to cover this question because we get it a lot and I could make 20 videos about it and people will still ask me questions. So I like to approach it in different ways and try to help people understand the idea. But part of this video, after I give my little lesson and explanation, I'd like to take any questions people have to help you understand things better, because this is really what helps you speak. Well, Ohio, Drew Sensei. Oh, you got the yawny faces. Subasa, nice to see you there. Jay, good morning, Drew from Indonesia. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everybody there. Nice fade, Drew. That's right, baby. I got it all cleaned up. I got to do what I can. You know, I've only got so much hair left, so I'm trying to enjoy the party while it's still going on. My wife will also not let me just like completely shave it bald yet, so we'll see how long it goes. All right, so let's talk about understanding. Andrea, nice to see you there. I'll be keeping an eye on comments as I go through this. But so if I like skip your comment or something, hopefully I should go back and check those out. I want to make sure I get to this important lesson right at the beginning, and then I'll go back and look at this. My wife controls my hair. That's it, though. All right. So talking about understanding, the basic idea. So I will get lots of questions, and this one actually came from a learner, I don't know, maybe a week ago or something. And this learner said, I don't really care about my pronunciation. I don't, like, my accent isn't like a problem either, but I want to be able to speak as well as I understand the language. And that's great. You know, some people don't care about an accent. Some people do. Some people really want to try to sound as native as possible and blend in as much as possible. They want to fit in with maybe some people they're working with or living with. Yes, Ilder. Go get a haircut. I love getting a haircut. I wish I could get a haircut every day. You know, I just enjoy, like, you know, getting a head rub or whatever. Oh no, pardon me. As always, we've got a fire truck or an ambulance or something. It's like a routine, like a tradition almost. All right, let me see here. Mohit, thank you so much. You helped me a lot. Glad to hear it. All right. So talking about understanding, basically people, what they think is kind of like this. Like, let's say we're going to have like a bar graph over here of how well. Let's say you have like 0 to 100, and this is your understanding, and then over here you have like 0 to 100. This is your ability to speak or to express yourself. Now, a lot of people think, well, like, I understand what Drew is saying right now, or I understand other lessons, or I even understand native English speakers. So why can't I speak as well as I understand? So why can't I speak as well as the other people, or like the other, my ability to understand? And so what's really happening is that you don't have like one skill or one level of understanding. So people think, well, I heard a word and so I can use it, but they still struggle. So what was interesting about this letter, it was just an email. We receive lots of emails from learners, and they're all basically talking about the same kinds of problems, and that's why we talk about these here on the channel. And so this one learner, they were saying, again, they don't have a problem with their accent or really their pronunciation, and even if they do, they don't really worry about it. They really just want to be able to express themselves as well, so they want to speak as well as they understand. And yet, in the email, there were lots of basic errors. So there were lots of basic errors in what they wrote. And that tells me that, again, they don't think or like their level of understanding is not as good as like they think it is. So basically, instead of having kind of one like ability to understand, it's more like 3. And I've covered this in videos before, but it's so important I want to cover it again in this video. So let me review this for people, especially for new people. Basically, when you're learning a new language, even without you saying anything, you're going through 3 basic levels of understanding. And it is true that your ability to speak is connected to your ability to understand. But most people think they have like this over here. So there's kind of one just like, yes, I understand the language. And I say, do you really understand it? How well do you understand it? Do you understand it completely, like 100%? And I don't mean the whole language. Like even I don't know lots of words, lots of maybe thousands and thousands of words that I don't know in English. But the point is here, for the words that you do know, how well do you understand those things? Okay? So people think that they have kind of one level of understanding. They hear some words, they can understand them, but why can't they speak? And this is why. So they think, again, that, okay, I understand something, I should be able to speak. But really, like I just drew before, there are actually these 3 different levels, generally speaking, that you go through, and you already do speak as well as you understand. So there's basically, in the same way, kind of 3 different levels of being able to speak the language. And so at the bottom here, we have, let me see, make sure I can fit this in here. I'll put an A here for, well, actually I'll put put an E here for exposure. So when you are exposed to the language, imagine I go to, I don't know, Thailand, and I'm just sitting in a cafe listening to people speak. I'm being exposed to the Thai language. I don't understand anything, but I'm being exposed to it. And maybe if I listen and pay attention and watch what somebody is doing and I'm able to get better understanding about that, then I can move up to the awareness level where I recognize certain things. And so lots of English learners are at this level here, so they recognize a lot of English. They can understand what I'm saying in videos, they can understand other English teachers, and even a lot of spoken native English. But they still, again, like this is the fluent level of communication up here. This is the kind of struggling, and this is the I can't speak at all level down here. So if I go to Thailand and I'm exposed to the language, I still can't speak it. So I don't understand anything, so of course I can't speak the language. So I'm not going to have any ability to speak here. But you can see that my ability to understand gives me the ability to speak. Okay? I really want to make this point clear to people, and I've drawn it this way so people understand the flow is from here to here. So you begin with understanding, speech is following that. Now, a lot of people think it's the opposite. So they think they start with speaking, and that's how they build fluency. But they still continue to talk. They look for more, maybe speaking practice partners or something, and they still can't express themselves. And that's because they think they start here with speaking. I maybe learn something very quickly, and I start repeating myself, talking to myself, speaking to myself in the mirror or in my car as I drive to work, something like that. But why am I not becoming a better speaker? Okay, so why am I not becoming more fluent? And that's because you have to move up in your ability to understand the language. So right now, whatever your level of understanding is, that's your ability to speak. And this is true for individual words and phrases. All right, so this isn't like you being fluent in the entire language, because you will be able to speak fluently about some things and other things you cannot. And that's really just, again, because of how well you understand that thing. So what I call the ownership level up at the top here, this is where you really know something, and the whole point of learning is to move up here in your level of understanding, to go from exposure to awareness and to ownership up here. Now, this process can happen actually very quickly. Like if I teach you something very quickly and you're able to understand it and you think, oh yeah, I really understand this. When you understand something well enough that you feel confident using it, that's when you're at the ownership level, and that's when you speak fluently. Okay? So everybody is always speaking at their level of understanding. But I really want to make it clear that there are different levels of understanding, and that's why you have different levels of the ability to speak. So many people will be in a conversation, and like if they have an awareness level, they can listen and follow the conversation, but they can't respond quickly and really have a good conversation with someone because they just don't yet feel confident about the language. And just like this student who wrote me, that knows a lot of English. So I could understand exactly what this person was saying, even though there were lots of basic errors in the writing. And so that tells me, again, that they're at the awareness level. They recognize it, but they didn't recognize their own mistakes while they were writing. And this means they probably lack confidence when they speak. Okay? Let me know if I'm going too quickly or if anything is not making sense. I haven't seen anything in the chat for a while, but let's see. I'll go back. Let's see. Tsubasa says, how did you get your wide shoulder? You look muscular. Oh, I don't know. I spend like 20 minutes in the morning exercising, basically. Let's see. Jess says, hey, Drew, could you please explain why I should keep the sound of regular verbs in the past? E.g. walked. It sound, T sound walked up. E.g. walked. Could you please explain when I should keep the T sound of regular verbs? It's easier to just see lots of examples of this. So if you get Frederick, I'll put the link for that up. Actually, the link is in the description below this video. I can try to explain to you logically when you would do something, but then you would be trying to think about rules when you speak, and that's a bad idea because it will stop you from expressing yourself. Instead, you should see lots of different examples of these things, and then you will naturally understand the pattern for when to say these things. So when to say walked, or I did something. So if we're talking about the ed, so like a verb or something ends in ed, when we say that or pronounce it differently. So in Frederick, I think, what level is that? I don't know. Maybe someone who has Frederick can check. It's on my phone right now, which I'm using to record this video, so I can't check it. But one of the levels is specifically talking about this, and it gives you the different examples of the 3 different ways you can pronounce it. All right. JD, hi, Drew. Do I say when I want to tell someone that I work in, let's see. I work in education service. Are you asking if like grammatically correct, like you work in something? How do I say? Yeah. So you work in a particular field. So like I work in teaching, or I work in zookeeping, or I work in something else. Let me know if I don't have that correct. So how do I say when I want to tell someone that I work in something and in education service? Let me know. Again, in general, I understand what you are saying, but sometimes I need a translation in my mind of what you are saying. I don't know why I need to match sentences between English and Arabic. It's a natural thing that we want to do because our brain really wants to understand something. And so typically when people are learning languages, they're learning English or whatever language. It's the same for all language learning for the most part. When people are learning languages, they learn it through their first language. And so people think that they basically get used to this over time and they want to continue practicing and doing like the way the teachers have taught them the language. But you can see the problem here with translating. So it's a natural thing you want to do because you don't understand the language very well. And that's not your fault. It's just the way teachers normally teach the language. It's easier in the moment to just give you like a definition or a translation of something rather than helping you understand something in the language that you're learning. So that's why I teach all in English. And I live in Japan, but I don't make content specifically for Japanese people in Japanese because it wouldn't really help them develop fluency. It would actually make their communication skills worse. So there is a place for that. Like some people just really want to get a quick definition for something. I don't care about using it fluently. I just need to know what a word means. Then you can just get a translation. But ideally, you get a definition or translation from English into English itself. So just the same way a native English speaker would look up a word. But if you need to use translations, it means you're at the awareness level or just the exposure level, and you still have trouble expressing yourself because you don't really understand the language, okay? So everyone does already speak at the level of their understanding, okay? I want to make that clear. I made another video that talks about these 3 different levels of understanding, but I wanted to, again, cover it here because it's such an important thing that everybody should know about. So there's not just one level of understanding. It's not like, oh, I hear something and I recognize it, but why can't I speak fluently? It means you're probably here. You're at the exposure level where you've heard something before, or you're at the awareness level where you recognize it and you understand when someone is speaking to you, but you still don't really feel confident enough to use that thing. So there's still something missing. There's a doubt or some confusion or something. And so that's what I like doing in these videos, is trying to erase that doubt. So if you have specific questions about how some grammar works or something like that, let me know in the comments and I will help you go from here to here. Because your ability to understand the language controls your ability to speak. Okay, so it's not the opposite of this. So most people think when they're learning English the typical way, the traditional way, you begin by getting maybe a very quick lesson in something, and then the teacher expects you just to say that thing again and again to develop fluency. But you don't develop fluency by repeating things, because repetition doesn't help you learn anything more. It can help you maybe practice the way your mouth moves or something like that, just getting used to saying something. But you don't really understand that thing, and then you can't use it fluently. All right. Azar says, well, I will also review your channel. This is a video I'm following for you. I will try to train and develop more. I think I'm at level 8. Yeah. So it's a very common thing. This is where most people are who watch my channel. And so I'm trying to get them up to the ownership level. It just means you understand something well enough to feel confident about using it. So you know that understanding and confidence and fluency, they're really all connected as one thing. And it's like a grade. I don't really like saying there are like 3 levels, but it's easier for people to understand how you move through the process of hearing something. So just like I gave the example before, like if I go to Germany and I'm sitting in just a room full of German people, I'm going to be exposed to the German language. But am I going to learn it? Well, probably not. I mean, I'd have to spend a lot of time and really get messages that were understandable. So I need someone to teach me and make the language understandable for me. And then if someone could do that, then I would move to the awareness level until I feel confident enough that I can speak and that I can use something correctly. If I don't think I will say something correctly, I will not use it. All right? If I don't feel I will say something correctly, if I don't think I will say something correctly, then I will probably not use it. All right? That's the big problem here, and that's what separates the people who have the ownership level of understanding versus the awareness level of understanding. All right? So a couple of big ideas here. I really want to make this clear for people. Understanding is the foundation of fluency. It's not speaking. Speaking comes from understanding. If you don't understand the language or you don't feel confident about saying something, then you don't speak. Okay? It's that simple. And so instead of trying to speak more, you don't try to force yourself to speak more, just understand better. It's much easier to try to do this, and this is something you can do all by yourself. All right, let me go back and answer this. Psychotic again, also to know the language, you have to know the culture of the language. Yeah, I mean, like knowing the culture of the language is implied, and there's also, depending on the specific vocabulary you're using. So I can use the grammatically correct language without also knowing certain things about like how people speak, or like specific movie quotes or things like that about the culture. So and even like in Japanese, like a lot of people speak without moving their top lip very much. So I don't really speak Japanese that way, but a lot of people do. And so those are things that you wouldn't find in a textbook. It's a little bit separate from the language. It's just a natural thing about how people pronounce the language and how, like, at this time people are doing certain things. So yeah, culture is certainly important, but a lot of people they still struggle to speak. It's not really culture. Culture is it's really more important for people who really want to speak very well. But before that level, a lot of people are actually struggling with even basic errors in their grammar because they don't understand, like even something like a preposition, or like the question I got earlier about ed at the end of a word, like how do I know which way to pronounce it? And so those are basic things about the language that don't really have any connection to culture, like in the way we would talk about it, like you know, the way humans, I don't know the best way to explain culture, but the point is they're basic things about the language that people still mistake, and they can become much better speakers simply by fixing those things. So lots of people worry about little things about pronunciation or grammar or vocabulary, and that's what kind of stops them from being able to speak. Let's see. All right, you guys are speaking to each other. There you go. All right, Andrew, can we maybe in the future learn some sort of short ways of saying things normally used by native English speaker by any chance? Well, you got lots of those examples here on the channel. If there's something you'd like to learn or you want to express something, let me know, and I can give you some more examples of it. Of course, we've got thousands of those in Fluent for Life. That's the whole point of the program. Grasley says, why can I understand you, but when I'm watching English news, I cannot? Yeah, so again, I'm intentionally being easier to understand. So I'm speaking a bit more slowly, more clearly, not using a lot of phrasal verbs or slang or other things without explaining it. So I could speak in a different way. I could speak much faster. I could blend my speech and speak less clearly. I could use more native vocabulary like I'm talking with a friend of mine, like a native friend of mine. And so again, there are different, this process here, when I talk about different levels of understanding, this is for individual words and phrases, okay? So you can have, if you imagine, like if you were to put all of your vocabulary, like ranking it, you would have some words that you have the ownership of. So you feel very confident about using some things. So a good example of this is a lot of people who are learning English and they know how to explain things about their job quite well because they've heard it so many times and they've probably spoken about it many times as well. So those people are able to talk about that thing. They have the ownership level for that vocabulary. So you don't, I guess you could take all of that and get a general like ranking for how well you understand the language in general. But usually what I'm doing, I'm making it easier for people to understand me. And then I'm also trying to teach them things to get them to the ownership level of understanding. And so people who are exposed to things like the news and there's just too much information that's either too fast or it's too difficult, or for whatever reason. It could be because the speech is blurred, so people are speaking too quickly, or most often it's just because they don't know the vocabulary. So there will be some technical vocabulary or some industry vocabulary, something that's just more difficult to understand. So the way people speak in everyday life is different than how people speak on the news. And even a native speaker might be listening to something and not know, they would understand generally, but maybe about some specific thing, even a native speaker would not understand what they're talking about just because they don't know that vocabulary. So don't feel bad if you don't understand the news, unless your job is to understand the news. All right, okay, got it now. Psychotic, you mean dog. Yes. You guys, all right, I don't even need to be here. You guys can teach each other the language over here. All right, so understanding this, if people have particular questions about things, I'd like you to think about something right now. Maybe you were in a conversation, or even something right now that you think you know, but maybe you just don't feel 100% confident about. So if I can help you get to that level, then you can start speaking fluently about that thing. Dog is, it's become a word. Like it wouldn't be, I don't even know if dog would be in the dictionary, DAWG, but it's definitely in common use enough that a lot of native speakers would know what that is. And typically what happens with the dictionary is some word will begin being used. And then after a while, after enough people use it and can agree on the definition, then it will be like enshrined in a dictionary, and then it will become a word like that. So every word that we use, it began at some point. So everything that's in the dictionary now, like there was a time when it was not in the dictionary. But we began, thinking about new words. We create new ideas or new technology or whatever, and we come up with a word for it, and there you go. But certainly slang, when people are thinking about slang, you will get slang spellings of words or readings of words. And a lot of people will, even if it's not in the dictionary, they will still recognize it as a word. So if anybody has any questions, let me know if there's a specific thing I can help you where maybe you've heard something before, but you don't really get it, or if you kind of understand something, but you don't really feel very confident about it, let me know. But maybe it looks like this is more turning into a lesson about slang, and like ain't isn't a word before, now it was. Yes, that's correct. Eunice said, what does mean G? I think Americans use this word to call some specific people G. That's debatable. I think like originally people would refer to it like in the slang term, like a gangster. But you can Google that, just like what is the origin of that. It's like, what's up, G? Like that's a different kind of usage of the word, and you wouldn't find that in the dictionary by itself. But there are like slang dictionaries that will help you understand that stuff. But a lot of that vocabulary, it switches, or people something will mean one thing and then it will mean something else later, and that's part of what happens when we put something in a dictionary. We feel pretty confident that we understand what it means. Don says, let's see, Drew, I want you to consider making a schedule in the future for your live, or at least announce it before. Thank you. Consider myself lucky watching this. So I generally do lives. So what day is it? It's Thursday morning here in Japan. Let's see. Usually it just depends on the schedule, and I don't like releasing a schedule because I don't know exactly if I would be able to do something or not, and I'd hate to tell people that it's happening and it's not happening. But the nice thing is I still make all of the videos available after that, so even if you don't watch it live, you can still go back and watch it anyway. But generally, you would find these like usually on Monday or Thursday, my time in Japan. Let's see, Graz, how often you didn't say how often do native speakers use idioms? I don't have a number for that, but typically like the more educated people are, the more they will use like interesting ways of expressing stuff, because they just have a number of additional ways to say they could do something. I'm trying to think of an example from yesterday, because I met a couple of friends of mine who were native speakers. What did I say? Oh, I think like a friend of mine. One friend of mine, he had, I think he made a mistake. Like he caused some trouble for himself, and I said, "You really stepped in it." Let me write this here. So if I just say that casually in a conversation like this, it would probably be hard for people to understand what I'm talking about. But he understands that idiom, like to really step in it. It's like, so I said, "Oh, like you, can you see that? Okay, you really." You really stepped in it. And this is an ED right here, an ED word where we have the T sound. Again, if you'd like to learn more about how to do these, how to pronounce these words correctly, get Frederick. It's in the link in the description below this video. And it will show you step by step how to do these things. So I said, you really stepped in it. And I was talking about the context for that was he had made a mistake. He had done something, and he was saying, "Oh, like I kind of messed something up. I screwed up a situation." I said, "Oh yeah, you really stepped in it." All right. And the idea here is like you're kind of stepping in, like you see some dog shit, and just like oh no, like you stepped in some dog shit right there. But we just say this casually as like you really stepped in it, and it meaning like you stepped in some dog shit right there. So that's a very casual way of talking about something, and like like it's an idiom because if I just say step, like to step in something, it's not really clear what I'm talking about, but he understood the idiom and that's why I was able to use it. So it's the same way as saying, yes, like you really made a mistake or caused a mistake for yourself. I could say that, or I could just say something more casual and conversational like this, like, ooh, you really stepped in it. Okay? And so he understood what I was talking about. So it depends, like, and it's not like you need to have a college degree to use idioms. People will use them all the time, but you tend, I'm just trying to figure out an answer to your question of how often people use them. I don't know. There isn't a specific number, and it depends on the person. But typically, people who do who are writing or they have to speak or something, they want to express something in a different way or a more interesting sounding way than just like you made a mistake. All right. So it's like, ooh, you really stepped in it. You know. All right. So there are different ways of expressing this, and that's when people start using idioms. They want to have a better way of saying something. Let's see. Okay, you got a lot of people talking about dog in the comments over here. Cam, hi from Thailand. Yes, the gangster OG, the original gangster. That's right. What does I bind myself mean? So the word bind, it would just mean to be connected, like tied up to something. So if I have a string, let's say I want to bind my hand to this marker. So I could glue my hand to this marker, or I could tie a string around it. So I'm stuck on that thing. I'm bound to it. So bound. So I bind myself, or I am bound to that thing. I'm bound to that thing. Okay. So if I bind myself to something, it just means I'm connected to this thing. And even if it's a physical understanding like this, like I have a connection to that thing. It could be a figurative connection as well, where like I'm bound to my wife. So I'm not physically like tied up with my wife, but we are like bound to each other by, marriage and, general courtesy. So to be bound to something, that's how you would use it. So you're connected to something in some way. Let's see. Mary Flowers, it means you promised yourself to do something. Yes, I mean that's like one way of expressing it as well. And Martha says, what is the best way to learn to use connectors? I made a video about that. If you're talking about things like and or whatever, there's a video. It was like, I think these 9 words, like speak fluently with these 9 words. So I would watch that video when I talk about that. Let's see. Elil says, if you native language, I think you not teach this because you're not studying. You already know this language. Just my opinion. I don't understand what you're saying. If you mean like if you are a native in a language, I think you not teach this because you're not studying. You already know this language, just my opinion. Are you saying I can't teach English because I'm native in the language? Is that what you're saying? Well, I mean, the argument for the learner of it would be nice if my teacher also understands what it's like to learn a language. So I speak Japanese fluently, and I wasn't born in Japan. I wouldn't say I was like a native speaker. There's lots I don't know, but certainly I speak fluently. I was at my barber yesterday and talking about, we were talking about like sexual harassment and stuff. I don't know why we were talking about that, but I mean, I was able to have a conversation about that in Japanese. But like for being able to teach the language, there are lots of people who know English and are not very good teachers because they're still teaching people English as a second language. And so they're trying to help people understand the rules of the language without really helping them understand the language itself. And so if the lessons that you're teaching make it more difficult for you to understand the language, they will also make it more difficult for you to speak. Okay? So if you're learning things and you're studying grammar rules or trying to memorize grammar tables and you're thinking like, I'm not getting it. It's confusing to me. I don't understand. Because you don't understand, you can't speak, okay? So you have to understand the language first, and then your ability to speak is really at the level of your ability to understand, Okay? So stop trying to force yourself to talk. You have to not force yourself, but just understand the language better. I think like an interesting metaphor, a way of thinking about this is like is like looking at a mirror. And if you see something in a mirror, like if I see something on my face in a mirror, I don't wipe the mirror off. I wipe off my own face, if that makes sense. So if I see something in a mirror, it's like, oh, that like I've got some red ink or something, or black ink on my face, and I'm looking in the mirror and I see that there, and the mirror is just reflecting me. Okay, so if I wipe off my face, then the mirror is clean too, and so that's the same thing happening here. Your speech mirrors your ability to understand the language. So you don't try to tweak or fix or do something about the speaking itself. You just focus on the understanding, and the speaking is automatically reflected in that. Okay? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. The other thing I related to this that I mentioned in an email to learners about this idea is that a lot of learners, they don't become fluent not because they're lazy, but because they have too much pride in wanting to understand something very well. So when I say, like, you need to understand the language better, and that's how you will speak, they say, well, I already understand the language. But I say, no, you don't. You've got errors in your writing and speech. So you clearly don't understand the language as well as you think you do. So more people, I think, are struggling because of pride rather than laziness about fluency. I think maybe I'm being too confusing with my metaphors over here. But the basic idea is that you don't try to focus on the speaking to improve the speaking. Just like I don't try to wipe off a mirror to clean my own face. If I clean my face, the mirror automatically reflects what is on my face. Okay? And your speaking reflects how well you understand the language. Does that make sense? Let me know. Yes, and a haircut. Yeah. Says Eunice over there. All right, let me go back, check these comments. Well, let me know if these are not. Let's see. Yes, but the psychotic knows the language very well. Let's see. Twins, I understand vocabulary if I learn, take a lot of examples from native speakers, but some days after I forget that vocabulary again, study of that vocabulary. Yeah, you can forget the vocabulary if you're not refreshed from time to time. That's why review is always a good idea. I mean, even me, so I've been living in Japan for many years, and I will forget some English words that I should know, but I'm just like, oh, what is that word? And then I have to be reminded of it. So I have to watch movies and things like that just to, reply that over there. All right, you guys better quit arguing in the chat or everyone's going to get kicked over here. Be kind to each other. Eunice, teacher Drew, if I don't practice English or if I practice it rarely, does it hurt my fluency? I want to know your opinion. I think we forget the language if we don't practice it. Again, I want to make it clear to people that the understanding, learning that helps you understand the language, the practice is over here. It's not over here. So when I'm learning something and understanding it better, I'm trying to help people understand something and improve their level of understanding until they feel that they really could use something confidently and fluently when they speak. So if you just are exposed to something, you don't feel confident or that you would be able to use it correctly. And so you don't say it. So if you feel confident and you know you will say something correctly, then you will speak. And so the practice you get comes from getting lots of examples that help you understand something very well. All right? So that when people talk about practice, they mean this, but they should be talking about this over here. Okay? Does that mirror analogy make sense? This like metaphor of the speech is reflected by how well you understand the language. Does that make sense? Because if you understand that, then you will stop trying to force yourself to speak, and you will start more trying to get lots of examples that help you understand something. Now, you could get just one example that helps you understand a word or phrase, and then you feel confident about using it. But if you're just repeating things over and over again, and that's really what you do when you speak, you're just repeating things that you already know, then it's really not going to help you speak much better. So really you should be focusing on the understanding. That's where the practice comes out. Let's see. So Ina says, I like your haircut of Marines. Have you ever been in the military? No, I have not. But some people out here will ask me if I've been in the military. I say I'm doing what I can with what I have. I'm doing what I can with what I have for my haircut. So it's nice and simple and easy with the hair that I have. All right, let's see. Tan says, could you teach me some more two-word idioms like make sense and speak volumes? I would focus on collocations. Just type in like C-O. Let me put this up here for you. C-O-L-L-O-S. Collocations. So these are groups like that. Like you don't need to think about whether it's an idiom or whatever, but it will teach you as you learn lots of collocations. You will get lots of examples of ways that native speakers are when they think of one word, they will think of something else, like those examples that you gave. I would look up more of those. I think if you search my channel, you will find more of those things as well. I heard sexual harassment in Japan is a serious issue. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of another thing in Japan is it's called like pawahara, like power harassment, and that means like your boss is being mean or whatever. I just saw an ad on the train today for that. Like power harassment, not to laugh at that, but yeah, I mean, because Japan is much more like a top-down hierarchical society, and so you will get like very strict. Like some people can abuse that power, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly like sexual harassment, whatever. I was actually talking with another friend about. Not the haircut place yesterday where I was talking with some guys there. And I said, so we were talking about like sexual harassment, and before women started working more in the workplace, so before you had like more women at offices and things like that, men are typically harassing each other, and not necessarily like a bad way. I mean, there's always like some kind of bad harassment like that, but even men were just, that's kind of how men can do things, like on a sports team or whatever, where it's typically mostly men there. Like that's how men will kind of organize themselves into their own, structure or like a hierarchy. But when you start putting women into that, then like men they still want to like harass each other anyway, but now like women are there too, and women are like, well, treat us equally, and like, well, we don't want to harass everybody, but so it creates confusion, and so you're going to get more of that like in the workplace, but people in general should try to not harass each other. That would be a good idea. Let's see. Aglin says, Drew, how much a haircut like yours costs in Japan where you live? Mine is $20 in California. Mine, yeah, it's about $20 right now. That's what mine cost me, like in Japanese yen. Let's see. David says, Japan is a great country. I hope hope one day can visit it. Yeah, well, come on out. It's a lovely place. Cabela says, greetings from Brazil. All right. Elder says, yesterday I saw a video how to fix the amplifier from one British speaker. It was very useful and funny because that guy a really merry man. Nice. Yes, it's always good if you get people who are entertaining who can teach you something. Twins, I'm Gansham. My son changed YouTube names. I don't know how to change name. Okay. That's pretty funny. You should, but twins, yeah, twins 99. I wonder what that means. Antonio, yes, it does. Let's see. Nils, crap. I don't know the time change here. No, the daylight savings time was like a couple of weeks ago. Are you still not? You're still not on the right time over there? Hey, Drew, could you please tell us a bit about your overview of why you live in Japan? Well, very quickly, I came here to study Japanese gardening, and I actually don't do anything with that currently. I would like to do more of it in the future, but that's why I came here. So I wanted to learn Japanese gardening, and I wasn't able to get a visa to do that, so I began teaching. I like teaching anyway. I really enjoy teaching, actually. And now it's funny, I teach and don't garden. But I will probably go back to gardening at some point. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's why I'm here. But I continue to stay here because I like the culture and the people, and I think it's a good place to raise kids. So I have 2 daughters, if you didn't know that already. Let's see. Yeah, in general, yeah, I actually met some foreigners. Well, I call them foreigners now, but they're just other Americans. They're living in Tokyo, and they were down visiting here in Nagasaki, and we had an interesting conversation about like, you know, just about living in Japan and what's nice about it, and yeah, but that's basically it. It's like a nice place. You got lots of, you know, nice people, intelligent people. It's a safe place. I can leave my computer somewhere and go someplace else and come back, and it will still be sitting there when I return, which is nice. Let's see. And as again, if you can constantly practice the vocabulary you have memorized, you will not forget it. Yeah. So you should be getting, again, what I call naturally varied review. So if you're trying to learn something, rather than repeating that vocabulary over and over again, you should get lots of varied examples of it. So that could be hearing different sentences that help you understand it better, or different tenses, or hearing different speakers using that same vocabulary. All right. Let's see, Eunice. Looks good. Glad to hear it. All right, it does make sense, says Dorka. Timur, nice to see you there. Nils, I know. Yeah, Nils, that's so embarrassing. Let's see. Pang says, good morning, teacher. Hello, teacher. I have a confusing pronunciation question. Okay, go ahead and ask me your question. Are your daughters bilingual, English and Japanese? Yes, that is correct. So there are no thieves in Japan. No, there definitely are thieves in Japan, but there's a lot less of them. Remember, it's like a gradient. It's not like absolutely no thieves, and like there are places that like everyone's a thief. But it's much more likely that people are not stealing your stuff over here. But I mean, I have had like my bike got stolen one time. I found it again. Somebody was just, I guess, riding it around, and I happened to find it. But yeah, bikes, you know, people do steal stuff. But it's typically a much safer country for a number of reasons rather than the United States, depending on where you're living. Obviously, a larger city anywhere is going to have a bit more crime than a smaller place. The globe and the gloves. I can't read the Hangul, but if you want to know about how to pronounce things like that, get Frederick. It will take you through those things. So globe. This is what's called a magic E word, or a last letter E, or a silent E word. So because the E is here, we get the name, the long vowel O sound, globe. If we remove that, we would get glob. So a glob is like a little bit of something. Like I could have a glob of toothpaste, or a glob of, you know, some little like kind of slightly wet mud or something like that, a glob of something. And so in Frederick, you can switch back and forth between like the short vowel sound ah and the long vowel sound o. But we have a word also like glove or love itself, love. These are not magic-y words. And that's interesting. Even though it forms the same function like this, they're pronounced differently. So there are exceptions to pronunciation rules in English, but they work about 84% of the time. And that's a lot if you're trying to learn pronunciation. So we teach the rules of pronunciation, and you will learn lots of words. And rather than trying to think about them logically, it's better to just get lots of examples, and you will naturally understand the patterns of these words. And that's how you will learn pronunciation. So if you'd like to understand and know like how to pronounce words, what way, like what spelling should be what sound, just get Frederick. Click on the link in the description below this video to get that. All right, Tan again says, how easy to communicate in English when you're living in Japan this day and age? How easy to communicate in English? You mean like if I'm talking with Japanese people in English? I think like some places, Yeah, you can like, it's actually quite easy to get around, and Japanese people are very friendly in general and accommodating. And so if you go someplace and don't speak any Japanese at all, they will do their best to try to help you understand something or find somebody who can help you. And so if you came out here as a tourist, I mean, it's pretty easy to get around even only knowing English. Let's see. Madelvid says, Drew, can you recognize English as a Scottish accent? Oh, you mean if someone is speaking like Scottish English or whatever, or like with a Scottish accent? Yeah, I can understand that. There might be some words that I don't know, but in general, I could have a conversation with a Scottish person, yeah. Shout out from Egypt. Let's see. Don Machiavelli again says, the only thing I'm struggling with in English is writing. I don't know how to write words correctly. What do you recommend? What do you mean you don't know how to write words correctly? You mean the spelling of them or the order of them in a sentence or something? Because if you know the English language well, whatever your vocabulary is, if you know it well, you should be able to speak and write it well. All right. So this is the input you get that helps you understand, and that gives you the output of that kind of understanding. So the ability to speak. So remember, if you don't understand something, you won't be able to speak. But if you do understand something a little bit, you'll be able to speak a little bit, but you will probably not be very confident in conversations. But if you really understand something well, then you will speak fluently. All right, that's basically how this works. So you should be spending your time on this, trying to understand the language better. However you get that input, like what we do in Fluent for Life, we give people lots and lots of examples of things to help them understand, and also just trying to teach things that the same way a native would learn them, rather than through trying to help you memorize grammar rules and things like that. So we really want to help you understand the language so you get to the ownership level of that thing. But just making sure I understand the question here. Let me see if I skipped that one. Yeah, so let me know if I'm not answering your question about writing. Is it not being able to structure like an essay well, or you're talking about sentences or spelling words? What exactly is the issue? Let's see. Hello from Brazil, says Rafael. Eunice says, why the E is not silent in service, an engine and machine and so on? Yeah, so those are different words. And I know it's you will find lots of exceptions for something like that, like engine. And part of this is it's like when you're doing a math problem, like you have the parentheses around something. I'm getting a little too much on the board here. So let's say I do like a 2 plus 3 times a 4 minus 8 or something like this. Now, if you don't have, people will look at these and like you would group it kind of like that. But the grouping of these things, it changes like the meaning of something. You know, if I'm like organizing the language like that. And so if we have like a word like engine, for example, so engine, I don't know the origin of that, but it could be coming from a word where we don't, like it's not the same kind of word like line, where we're using, this is a magic E word over here, a silent E word. But this one, like, because we're kind of grouping these two letters here, so we got engine. And here, like the I coming after the G has a short I sound. And so rather than explaining that, it's better to just get lots of examples, and you will learn things like, oh, machine and engine, and the pronunciation, especially for a word that you would use or hear often, you will get that naturally. All right, so you will listen to those examples a lot, and you will naturally learn when to pronounce them. And again, this is another reason why we spend most of our time trying to understand the language really well, getting lots of examples, so that when we do speak, we speak correctly. All right, let's see here. All right. Jay says, Drew, may I please know some expressions or body language meaning of American people? I'm an Indonesian teacher teaching foreigners. You mean like you're in Indonesia and you're teaching foreigners in Indonesia? Is that what you mean? Like an example of what meaning, expression or body language? You should watch, if you're just looking for more like phrases, just search our channel for that and you will get lots of examples of those. Also in Fluent for Life, we've got thousands of them as well. So rather than try to just like teach some random stuff, think about specific situations where you would speak with people or you're trying to communicate something, like what's something you communicate regularly. And then you can either ask me or you can look those things up. Is that related to the origin of words? Yes. So the origin would have like an important part to play in that thing. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm trying to like read this Japanese very quickly. Like if you're learning something that's easy, like what you think is easy, it's just really how well you understand something. So if you understand something well, then it seems easy to you, and if it's not easy to understand, then it seems difficult. But that's really more about how someone teaches you the language. If someone does a bad job of teaching, that just means they're not making the language understandable. All right, so it is easy to learn the language and to be able to communicate fluently if you get understandable lessons. But if the lessons are not understandable, then you're going to have more trouble doing that. But I do encourage you to mo eigo de kakinasai yo. Write in English over there. Get some kind of practice over there. Let's see. All right, what about struggling, running out of ideas while speaking? Yeah, I made a video about that too. That was, what was the name of that video? I think it was like how to keep speaking or how to speak continuously, something like that. But I made a video where I'm talking about, it's like a train moving forward and you continue to lay the track as you're moving forward on the train. So that's what fluent speakers are able to do. So non-fluent speakers, they will be riding, like they will try to think ahead and they put down some track and then move the train forward a little bit, but if they can't think of anything, then the train stops. And that's what happens for a lot of people. So in that video, I explain how that works. I just forget what video it is, but look, you have to, yeah, I apologize because I don't, but it's talking about that basic idea of speaking continuously. It might be the video about how to connect words and phrases. I think something like that. I forget the exact video, but it's talking about that idea. Let's see. Rafael, what does it mean in Japanese? Oh, you just use Google Translate on that. Mr. from Honduras, I see there, Aglin says, Drew, why do people think ownership of English a must-have? Why do people think ownership? Well, actually, I mean, most people don't think that. They're not thinking about that at all. This is like my idea to help people understand the language. My point is that lots of people are focusing on this side of the picture. They're trying to speak more, like repeating things to themselves, or trying to speak more to other people. But your ability to speak is reflected by how well you understand the language. So instead of trying to, you're trying to look at something and you don't really understand it and then try to practice it more, because that's not really going to help you. You don't become a better speaker by speaking. I know it sounds yeah, so wakateta. So I don't know if what's a good way to explain this. Basically, people try to repeat things to themselves or try to say things to other people, but they wonder why they're not becoming more fluent. And the reason is because repeating something doesn't help you understand it better. I could repeat a new word, like let's say I hear something in Japanese, but I don't really understand what it means, and I just start repeating that word, or I learn a word in Thai or French or Chinese, whatever. I'm not going to become better at using it because I don't feel more confident about the word. If I just repeat something over and over and over and over and over, I can maybe say it better, but I don't really. It's like a child who says something and they don't really understand what it means. And so instead of focusing on the speaking, your attention should be all here and helping you understand something. And as you understand something better, that's when you start to speak. That's how it works. All right. So you don't have to worry about lots of speaking practice or finding a speaking practice partner or whatever. You just have to understand the language better. And you can get this from lots of different places. Like for me, learning Japanese, I could get it from a comic book, I could get it from an online article or something, or just listening to Japanese people talk. Like sometimes I will go to places and just sit and listen to Japanese people talking. I'll pretend like I'm reading a book, but I'm really just listening to their conversations. So I'm like a spy. I recommend people do this, just to get that information from other people. Like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like this person said this in some way, And so when people are focusing on the understanding, then the speaking will naturally improve. Okay, but if you try to focus on the speaking, then it doesn't improve. You see how that works? That's why I use that mirror example of. If you see like a mark on your face, if you're looking at a mirror and you see a mark on your face, of course we get an ambulance again. If you see a mark on your face, don't wipe the mirror, wipe your face. If you wipe your face, the mirror will automatically reflect what your face looks like. So don't wipe the mirror, wipe your face. Don't try to practice speaking, just improve your understanding and that will help you speak. So those two are connected to each other perfectly. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, you got the explanation. Glad to hear. What is your name, teacher, and where are you from? My name is Drew Badger. I said that at the beginning of the video, and you'll see me talk about that in lots of my videos. But I'm from the United States, and now I live in Japan. All right, let's see. I think everybody's getting it. Here we go. Peter, watching from Vietnam. Nice to see you there. Eventually catch the stream online. Let's see. India, one. Hey there. I ran a bit late. 1 minute long. It's okay. We are practicing here, teacher. What a nice practice. I like YouTube Live. Yes, so this is a form of practice. Practice just means it helps you understand something better. Now, of course, you can speak. It's okay to speak. That's the goal. That's where everybody wants to go. But I'm saying if you start at the end, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to start at the beginning and actually improve your understanding of individual words and phrases. So this is how we can get people fluent very quickly, because if I can get you fluent in 100 words and you feel confident about using them, then you will start speaking very quickly. It would be very easy to do that. But if I get you to just repeat after me, you're not going to feel confident about those words, and so you won't use them in a conversation. You have to feel confident about what you're going to say, or you won't say it. All right. Yeah, so even a native baby can understand, like, yeah. So yeah, if you like a baby, babies are listening to things. Babies spend most of their time doing this, and then they speak after they've gotten lots of examples of something. May I ask about the U and S mean on the board? So this is just understanding and speech, understanding and speaking. I'll go over these again. So this is like what I explain as different levels of understanding. So people think like a big problem people have is, why do I understand the language but I don't speak very well? And my point is that you actually do understand and you speak as well as you understand. So if you're at the exposure level where you just hear something but you don't really understand it, then you can't speak. So there's an X right here. The awareness level means you actually recognize information, you understand it, like, oh yeah, I can listen to somebody talking, but my speaking ability is not going to be very good, because if I don't feel very confident about the language, even if I understand it, then I won't be able to repeat that information back to other people. So it's like, you can think about this one like driving a car versus sitting in the passenger seat. So if I'm driving, I have to really pay attention. I know the road very well. I know where I'm going. And the person sitting in the passenger seat is not really paying attention very well. Maybe they're looking at something else or whatever. And so if I ask that person, well, how did we get there? They wouldn't be able to explain that. So I would, because I've got the ownership level of understanding. So I know how to drive from one place to another. I know where I'm going. I'm paying attention to that. And so I have the ownership level of that. That's how I'm able to drive fluently, I guess you would say. So I'm able to do, because I understand the language well, I'm able to repeat that. But for so many years, especially when people start learning languages in elementary school or whenever, like in Japan, they start in elementary school or even kindergarten in some places, they're mostly learning the traditional way by trying to get, like obviously for like little kids, it's just songs and things like that. But usually when people start learning the language, it's going to be some lessons that you don't understand very well. And then you won't feel confident speaking, so you just try to repeat phrases to yourself or you're talking to other people, but you're not really feeling more confident that you understand the language or that vocabulary. So if you look at individual words and phrases, what you understand very well, that's what you can use, all right? So don't worry about trying to speak. Spend your time getting more examples that help you understand something, and that's when you'll be able to use that fluently. Let's see here. Let's see, Nils again. Oh, okay, I got that one. All right, Timothy says, for example, I started speaking by shadowing and thinking in England. Yeah, and so if you're, the real thing you're doing is getting experience with lots of different examples of that stuff. So especially if you're living in the country, you don't have to do that. So like Fluent for Life, that's what we do. We basically like bring the world of English speakers into your headphones or your computer screen or whatever. And so you don't need to physically be living around native speakers, but you do need their input. So you need examples of native speech in order to get fluent. That's why you can't, most people who are just learning with an English teacher are not going to be prepared for real conversations because they're not actually hearing real spoken English. Sarah says, do we only use a preposition on for social media, like on Facebook or on Instagram? Well, I could think of some examples when maybe we would use something else. Let's see, like if I saw something in a social media post. So I saw, here's a post, I saw something like in that post, but I saw it on Facebook. And you will still hear people sometimes like, yeah, it was in Facebook or like it was in a YouTube video. So it just depends on how specific you're being, but you could get lots of examples. And it's always good to think of like, okay, what's a like a counter example or sometimes when something might not be true. But good question. Okay, gotcha. Let's see. Says Nils. Keiko says, hi, teacher. Hello, nice to see you there. Doy says, hi, Drew. I'm learning English in topics. For example, I'm learning about Christmas. I've seen 5 or 6 videos of different people. Should I keep following it to learn English? Yeah, you should. Are you understanding more as you learn about that? I would get even more specific about like a video about like making Christmas cookies. So I would find like 5 videos about that. So find 5 videos about making Christmas cookies or 5 videos about, I don't know, like the night before Christmas or something like that, some different examples. So the more specific you get, the easier it is for your brain to understand things automatically. Bridget says, hello, teacher, I like your haircut. Now, this is the same haircut I usually get. You know, it's just like, you can see like on the on my videos, it's like a chia pet. You guys know what a chia pet is? Maybe you don't. I'll put this list. C-H-I-A, chia pet. This is it's like a little kind of like a pot, and you put some seeds on it, and you put water in it, and it grows out. You should watch. Just look for that. You can watch a commercial for it. It's like chia, and the little sprouts come out. That's basically what my hair looks like over a month, and then I cut it off again, and it sprouts out again. Chia. I don't know if we can even find the chia pet around, but yeah, they had like different ones. It was like a sheep, so you spread some seeds on it, put the water in, and watch it grow. You know. right, let's see. Don says, and no, speaking and understanding both are great. Even reading, what I mean is putting the letters together to write a specific word or sentence. The ability of writing itself is weak. I still don't get it, though. Are you talking about spelling words? When you say putting letters together, do you mean like you don't know how to spell them? I still don't understand so what I'm saying, would you make that the stronger skill? Well, I mean, in general, whatever the skill is, in this case, writing, I would practice writing more, and I would just write down, I would copy what other people have written for whatever style of writing it is. So if you're trying to write essays or emails or whatever, get examples of those and physically write them out by hand. So actually, like not with a computer, like physically write it out. And that will train you to write better. So it takes a little bit of time, but that's how you do it. All right, Dran, the question now is how to understand English the right way. Well, that's it. It's just like you're getting more examples of things. And I've done this hundreds of times in my videos. It's just, how can I help you understand something so you feel confident using it? And yes, you're correct that like that is the most important thing for developing fluency. So it's not about trying to speak more, it's how can you get more examples, how can I really feel confident that I'll say something correctly. So if there's something you know but you don't feel confident about, post it in the chat and I'll help you understand it better. All right, so I like to leave people like, now I got it. All right, when you have that feeling, that's when you know you can use something correctly. All right, Gigwa says, I have a question. Chunks are very important for both listening and reading, aren't they? I'd like to understand their conversation more quickly. Is this the best way to do that? Well, anything that like has meaning by itself that you can understand, and the meaning of words will change depending on where they are. This is where people get the idea of like learning something in chunks, because it's typically a group of words together or that kind of context that gives something the meaning for that situation. So a word, again, like the word trunk. This can mean like an elephant nose, or it can mean your body, like the trunk of a tree, the body of a tree, or it can mean like a box, a trunk, like that. And so if we're talking about like a steamer trunk, that's where we mean, like a certain box that we put on a like a steamer, steamship, like a cruise ship. And so yes, chunks are good. You will learn those pieces over time, and you can focus on those. I gave the example before, collocations. So if you look for these, and we've made videos about these, I actually did with a couple of friends of mine out here, and it's on YouTube. It was like, it kind of looked like a game show. It was like a word thing, but I was getting these other native speakers, like, if I say this word, what word do you think of next? And that was an example of how collocations work. So you can watch that video on the channel too. I forget the name of it, but it was something about like, if you look at the thumbnail, it kind of looks, it's like word games or something like that. I think that's the name of it. But the basic idea is that native speakers, they recognize these patterns over time because they've had so many examples of them. And after you hear them, it's like you hear like steam. Like, what's something you think about? Like, if I hear the word steam, what do I think of next? I hear like steam engine, steam trunk, steam punk, steam powered. And so you will get these kind of chunks of meaning that's more specific than just the idea of steam by itself. All right, or like full steam ahead. So you can learn lots of different things as you chunk them that way. But this is just another way of saying that you should understand the language well. But yes, like it's easier to understand the pieces of the language. Like and it could be like a word by itself or a few words as a chunk or a small like phrase like that. But yeah, it's a good idea to learn those things. Let's see. I think we got that. All right, guys, thank you for your answer. It's my pleasure. Hello, teacher. Let's see. Is I'm at my office or I'm in my office? Eunice, both of those are correct. And again, as the last video I made last week? So I talked about like a Christmas tree being in the window. And it refers to being in that space, like there's some depth there, and so you would have a Christmas tree in that particular area. And so instead of thinking about particular prepositions, like you're saying, like being at the office or in the office, watch that video because it goes over those different ways of looking at this situation. So there's a slight nuance, a slight difference in the understanding of it, but natives can use both of those and they mean basically the same thing. So if a friend of mine says, hey, where are you? I could say, oh, I'm at work, or I'm at the office, or I'm in the office. And both of those would mean the same thing, but in is like I'm definitely specifically inside in my office right now, in that context. But if I say I'm at the office, maybe I'm outside in the parking lot. I could be inside the office as well, but at gives you a larger area. So natives aren't really thinking about it that they're just kind of, some people will say at, some people will say in, but someone like me is trying to help you understand how natives would think about that if they had to explain it. So natives are not thinking about that. And if you ask a native like, hey, why did you use in and not at? They probably wouldn't be able to answer that question well. They're just like, well, I'm at work. I'm in the office. It's not really giving you an explanation. It's just saying what it is, So don't worry too much about that. And this is, again, another reason why it's important to understand the language well with naturally varied review. So if we're talking about a situation, this situation is, here's a person in some kind of space here. So this is the situation. I could say, let's say this is like the office. Where is the person? Oh, he's at work. He's at the office. He's in the office. So I can take this situation and express it in different ways. So it's not like there's one that's correct or not correct. It's just a slight nuance in the way that I understand that. So in the office is like ding, 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 ding. Like I'm definitely inside this physical place. But if I'm at the office, it means like it's a larger general area. I could be on the roof of the building and I'm still at the office. Yeah, I'm at work right now. Even if I could be out driving my car and I'm still at work if I'm in my working day. So maybe I'm driving from one office to a customer's office or something like that. So I'm in my car, but I'm at work. Okay, I'm in the process of working, or I'm in a general area of doing something like that. So this is why, when I first started learning Japanese or any of the other languages I tried to learn, I would be paying really close attention to the first example I got. And I think maybe I made a video about that recently too, which was maybe 2 videos ago I was talking about, what was I talking about exactly? I was talking about imprinting. So when a baby chick is born, or they hatch, a baby chick comes out of the egg, it imprints on the first, or it kind of gets an impression from the first thing it sees. And so usually that's a mother hen. And so the baby chick knows ooh, that's mama right there. It has an imprint of that. And in the same way, when we're learning languages, we get an imprint of the first example of something we hear. And so a native speaker says, ohayou gozaimasu. So this is good morning in Japanese. But maybe so I think okay, everyone says ohayou gozaimasu. That's the way everybody says it. But not everybody speaks like that, or they don't all use that same word. Another person might just say they're greeting me, and it's wait a minute, what did that person say? There's clearly 2 different things there. And that's because you will have a situation, and there are many different ways of expressing that. I'll give you another example of this. So when I was, a few days ago, I had to go to a wake. So a wake, it's a Japanese friend of the family had died, and so we went to, it's like the kind of ceremony before the funeral, the wake. I think that's called the wake. It's tsuya in Japanese. That probably doesn't help you, but anyway. So I went there, and there was an altar, and I make this kind of And we all do this because we're imprinting. Like a native speaker will give us an example of something, and then we think, well, I guess that's just how you do it. But it's not just how you do it. It's how that one person does something. That's why when you're learning your native language, you get lots of examples from lots of different people, and that gives you your voice or your understanding of the language. And so I'm sitting there. So it was me and my wife's uncle, and we're looking at, there's an altar up here. It was just a table. It had a little box with some incense in it that you burn. And then there was like another like box with some stick incense. And there were 2 candles. There was a lower one that had some kind of writing on it. And then there was a kind of higher one that did not have any writing on it. All right. Now, this is an important story. Trust me, if you're just following this here, it sounds like it's not connected to language learning, but it is. It's really about this idea of imprinting. And so there is a candle here and a candle up here, and then you take a stick of this incense, and you could light it with either candle. And so I said, which is the correct candle? Because I have to go up here and do this also. Now, I've done it before. Like, I know how it works, but like, when I was asking, I was like, oh, that's interesting. There are 2 candles up there. And I see people lighting their incense with both. And I was like, okay, so there isn't like a specific rule, or maybe there is, but I'm not like understanding, which is like the correct one, if there is one. So it could be that you're supposed to light your incense stick from this one, and then you put it in this other. So you take your stick of incense from here, you light the candle, or you light the incense, you get it like steaming or smoking, and then you put it in this other little pot over here. But there are these 2 candles, and so I was just watching people going up and doing this. And some people would light their incense with this smaller candle, and some people would do it with that one. So my point is that if I'm sitting here and I only watch one person go up, I'm going to copy that person exactly. So that person, like, they light this candle and they put the incense in here. And then I will just do the exact same thing. Okay, that person did it. That person must know what they're doing, so I'm going to follow that person. All right, that person imprinted on me what I should be doing. So what is the correct behavior? And it works exactly the same way with language. So if I go into a room and someone is like, let's say I go into a room and a guy actually has a really bad voice. And he's like, "Ohayou gozaimasu." Like, that's how he says good morning. And so I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, is that just his voice, or is that how people speak? Like, does everybody do that? So maybe I go to a different person and I want to speak normally. I want to speak like regular people, and I just only have that one example. And so I see someone, I'm like, "Ohayou gozaimasu," and they're like, "Why are you speaking like that?" And I feel embarrassed because I got only one example. So again, like, I understood something a little bit, but not like perfectly. And that's why we need to get lots of different examples. So I need to see a bunch of people come up here and look at that. Some people use this candle, some people use that candle. And I'm sure all of those people, they don't really know for sure what they're doing either. Maybe one person does, like the priest or somebody like knows, like, actually you should be using this candle down here. But people didn't care, all right? Anyway, the point is, if you're looking at examples of things like this is why it's so important. Instead of trying to just, like, I watch one person and then try to, like, repeat what that person did, it's much better for me to get lots of different examples, and that's what will help me understand words and phrases. So even something like prepositions, I don't focus on the word by itself. It's like, what did generally different people say in this situation, or how could I say it differently? Okay, that was a long response to that question, but hopefully that makes sense. Eunice, let me know if this explanation makes sense. But the point is, don't focus on, like, which one of those is correct. The point is, as a native speaker would learn it, they would hear lots of examples of people saying they're in the office or they're at the office, and both of them would be correct, depending on the situation. But they're also not like thinking about it that like strictly, that seriously. All right, let me go back. Chat got quiet again. and make sure I'm getting through these over here. What time is it? Let's see. Oh my goodness, already like 11. Gone 84 minutes almost. Oh my goodness. All right, Arthur says, how do you learn new words if I don't have a nobody who give me some example like your word where your daughter learned the word harsh? Well, again, watch the video I made about learning to make espresso. So go to my YouTube channel homepage and you should see that video up there, how to make espresso, and it's just a video about naturally varied review. Remember, you will learn and become, you could go very quickly from 0 to 100 if you learn something very quickly. If you just understand something, like if I learn the word like let's say, like here's a candle. I'll give you an example, just teach you like a different example of Japanese here, just to make this clear. So if I'm learning a word as like a native Japanese child, so I see this candle right here and I go to touch it. Ita, itai, ita. What do you think I meant by that? Ita, ita. Or let's say something falls on my head. I say ita, ita. What do you think I mean by that? So you're getting a direct example. You're going from like here to here. It's like itai, ne, itai. But I'm hearing it like different people are pronouncing it different ways. So it could mean hot, but again, you've also seen a different example where something falls on my head like a hammer or something. So it's not hot, it's ouch. Yeah, so you got it, Dran. And this is why it's important. If I touch the candle, if I only have one example of something, I'm still not perfectly clear about what it means. I have a pretty good idea. It could mean hot, it could mean pain, it could mean something else. So if I touch something like this, itai, 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 itai. So you could mean hot. Okay, the candle is hot. But then I gave you another example where it's a different situation. There's nothing hot about that at all. It's just ita, 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 ita. So you're hearing me pronounce it differently, and you're hearing in the general, like, okay, something like I got hurt in those examples, and you would guess, okay, it probably means ouch or hurt or pain or something like that. All right. So this is how we get more examples and understand something better. So look for examples of people talking about something. Again, this is what we do in Fluent for Life. Frederick is organized in this same way too, because we want to give you different examples of the vocabulary using different images. So if I have the word cat, I'm going to give you 4 different pictures of what a cat is. So you all know what a cat is, but maybe it's a different word, something like that, like a word like a capture. So I might have like this is a kind of small example, but here's like a fish, and here's a fish in the fish bowl, and I've got an arrow pointing down to that. And you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. This one, it's like it's being held, and I give you 4 more examples that really help you understand something. That's the whole point of the program. And so we do this, we teach the same way in Frederick, teach the same way in Fluent for Life, because when you understand something well, then you feel confident about using it. Okay? Ouch. Yeah. Painful. Ouch. Itai. All right, so that's how you get it. So you can get this anywhere, but it's usually by focusing on a particular topic. So you get examples from learning about, like I gave before, about making some Christmas cookies. So go watch a video about that right now. Don't watch just one person, of course. Don't watch just one person make something. Watch 10 people make something, okay? And you will, just like a native speaker, you don't need to have the actual native speaker there, and you don't need to say anything. The point is you're getting all these examples, and as you go through the videos, like if you watch that espresso video, it gives you 4 different examples of people making espresso. And as you go through those examples, you start recognizing the patterns, and you know what vocabulary they're going to use. So by the 4th video, it's like, oh, look, he said tamp down. You got to tamp down that stuff. So when I made that video, I didn't understand anything about making espresso. I don't know what espresso is or how to make it. But after I finished making that video, I did, because now I can talk about it, because I've seen some people making espresso. And I could say, oh, like you got to tamp down the coffee. They don't say press it down, they say tamp it down. It's the same idea, but they use that specific vocabulary for that process. So that's how you get the examples of these things. All right, Aglan says, the more I listen to you, I'm owning English skills from the way you speak. I do pick up some words as you speak or naturally review. Love that concept of MVR. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Remember, I'm just naming the thing that everybody does already. So when you hear something on the news and your friend is talking about that thing and you also, I don't know, see it someplace else or whatever, that's naturally varied review. So that's how you learn new things as a native speaker, whatever your language is. So I'm just taking that same process and systemizing it for learning English. Yes, guys, hit that like button. We all love hitting the like button over there. All right, let's see. Nina says, I live in Canada. A lot of people speak really bad English, my impression. And still they live here. Is it possible to improve English in such an environment? Roughly a third of the people I deal with are native. Again, like I can learn French here in Japan just by getting lots of examples of French online. So I don't need to be in France to learn English. And so you can be in Canada and even learn with Canadians speaking about things online. And like in Fluent for Life, this is what we do. So we have Canadian English speakers, American English speakers, people from even like one of our speakers is from Zimbabwe, and she's a native English speaker, but her pronunciation is a little bit different. And so you don't need to be in a physical place to get this. This is why understanding, you see like this little chart over here is understanding. It's not like having native speakers with you. It's just, do you understand the language well or not? So you don't need to have a native speaker there to understand that. And Arenko says, how do you use the word assumption? Well, assumption is if you're like, lots of people make the assumption, lots of people assume that you get fluent by speaking. But the truth is you get fluent by understanding. So you make an assumption. To make an assumption means like, well, I guess something is true, or like you're thinking something is possible. You're making an assumption. So that is like the idea that you think about is an assumption. Okay. So you don't know that for sure, but I assume something is true. So like right now, you make the assumption that I'm wearing pants. But you don't know that. You don't know if I have pants on or not. It's an assumption. You guess that thing, even if you're not thinking about it. You're thinking about it now, though. You're like, gee, does Drew have pants on or not? Yes, I do, in fact. But maybe I don't. You're just making an assumption that I am wearing pants. Let me know if that makes sense. All right. Holy Josh says, do you think I should spend more time reading or listening and speaking to podcasts? Just do this. Understand the language better. Find a topic you want to learn more about and focus on that. That's what you do. So you get just watch that espresso video that makes it very clear. So just go to our homepage on YouTube and then you will find that espresso video there. Let's see. Hello from Russia. Isaiah Azar again says, sometimes I need to rehear the words or questions to make sure I understood what the other person says. Do you think that's normal? Yes, that's just fine. Again, you're trying to understand a new language. And so if maybe one person doesn't speak very well, it's not like the language is difficult, it's just that person isn't speaking clearly. So people can say, wow, Drew, I understand your English very well, but other people I cannot understand very well. And so it's not about the language, it's just how some people speak. And that's why you need to get lots of different examples of how different people speak in order to develop understanding, which gives you fluency. Bruno again, Drew, my man, it's been a while, hope you're doing well. What's up, everyone? Nice to see you here again. All right, I think everybody's getting it though. Zhao says, how can I apply this strategy on my day-to-day basis? I mean, at work, small tasks, small talk. I would spend more of your time learning something, and if you think about what your work is, like learn more information about that particular thing. This is exactly what we do in Fluent for Life. So people like, if you want to learn about taking care of pets, then watch videos about people taking care of pets. Or if you're having, whatever your job is, I don't know what you do, but you can have that same exposure to the language wherever you are. And so every day I would try to focus on something new. Like if I work at an ice cream shop or in an office or something, and whatever my specific job is, you can tell me more about that, but just find out more information about that thing. Really like go deep into that thing, and it will automatically teach you the vocabulary you need. All right, Paul says very helpful. Glad to hear it. Let's see, Lester, great content. What would you say is your English accent? Well, I have an American English accent, and I'm speaking naturally and a bit more smoothly and clearly that people can understand me. But you can hear my nose I have a little kind of nasally sounding English. But I don't have a particular accent. When I speak kind of normally, I say y'all, and I'm a little bit casual. But so some people think I'm from maybe the southern part of the United States, but I am from Chicago. All right, this says thank you so much. XD is back. Do you know what's the latest facility in China? It's China's dream, which means the crumbling house. Yeah, if you XDL, you always have, either you're talking about China or you're talking about Call of Duty. What do you do? Are you like 13 years old or something? Tell me more about your life. I want to help you have a better life over there. Psychotic enjoying himself. Let's see, Nina, great. Your explanations are so perfect, easy to go with. Yes. So you notice what I'm doing here, like I'm giving you different examples to help you understand something. And when you get it, what I call the aha moment, it's like, I got it. It's like ding, you go from zero to understanding something. Okay. All right. I think people are getting it though. All right, Dran says, those who are conscious about their own accent, like what Drew is trying to say, is understanding each word always comes first. Yeah, and it's important to understand, your ability to communicate correctly is more important than your pronunciation, unless your accent is really difficult to understand. So I would worry less about that. But your accent will improve automatically, and the same with your listening as you get more examples. So if you only listen to me, you will start sounding like me. But if you listen to me and lots of other native speakers, you will basically develop your own. It will become you. You are being created by all these other all that exposure. So that's why I talked about in that the video about imprinting. If you have only one example, you will really sound like that thing. So it's very good to get lots of varied examples. All right, let's get warm hugs from Brazil. Yes, Itai, it's painful. It's a good video where you can learn English and Japanese at the same time. Yes. So I'm not, again, I don't want to just give Itai equals painful. It's teaching you to think about the language through a translation. But if I can teach you Japanese in Japanese by giving you lots of examples, and then you will feel like, look at that. I learned some Japanese like a Japanese person. You learn Japanese as a first language, okay? That's the important thing here. So all these examples, when you understand something as a first language, then you speak fluently. Until then you're just like, well, I understand something, but I don't feel very confident about speaking, all right? So that's what we're going for. All right, Rad says, my only problem is thinking about what I'm going to say, probably in Arabic, then I translate in English. Yeah, and it's because you don't understand the language as well as you think you do. All right? As I said before, more people have a problem with pride, and I'm not trying to say anybody in particular has a pride issue, but it's more people don't want to review things in different ways because they think they know it already. But if they can't use it fluently, they don't really know it. Okay, I want you to get to the awareness and then ultimately the ownership level of understanding. That way, you speak fluently. If you just get exposed to something, you don't really understand it, you can't understand it, you can't use it fluently. Same thing with awareness. You can be in a conversation but not actually have a good conversation with someone. You can understand them, but then you're struggling, I can't, that you get stuck. All right, but when you get to the ownership level, then that's how you communicate smoothly. You can understand the other person. You can make interesting jokes or whatever, stuff like that. Just like I was able to do when I was having this conversation yesterday at the barbershop. So it's me and 3 Japanese people there. And, these are just like, I know them. These are one guy is my barber, another guy is working there, and another lady was washing my hair. And so like a lot of people would be like, like, how are you going to have a conversation about that? But it's just because I've gotten lots of examples, I feel confident about the language. But anyway, that's how you do it. Hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. EFL is essential to learn English. It's helped me a lot. Yes, glad to hear it. Remember, it's just learning English as a first language, doing the same thing you do in your native language. The only reason I call it learning English as a first language and not learning as a native is because people don't believe me if I say it's learning like a native. So it is, you're basically learning, you should learn any language like it's your native language. That's what you should do. All right, but people don't believe that's possible, so I have to call it learning English as a first language. Here's my secret for you guys over here. I think you guys all get it though. But when I'm trying to explain that to people, if I say you should learn English as like a native speaker, they think, okay, well, I don't have anyone to speak with or whatever. It's like it doesn't matter about speaking. We're just talking about how well you understand the language. So if I can help you understand the language, then you will become a more confident speaker. All right, Keiko says, thank you very much, teacher. This is my pleasure. XD back, 22, and I just finished all the camo challenges in COD. It took me 2 weeks. Proud of myself. Concrete problems need concrete analysis by Chinese government, but they never seem to want to solve in this theory, which makes themselves, made by themselves, sarcastic, I see. Yeah, the best we can do is help ourselves and the people around us in our community. So like the American government is going to do what the American government does, but I can do my best for myself and my family and my community, and that's what I try to do for you guys too. So I can't change them. So if any problems you guys have with various governments, I can't do much about that, but I can help you here. Jiao says, do you think stuttering might be a problem when trying to communicate? Yeah, it can be. It could be, sure. But a lot of people, unless you stutter in your native language already, and I'm not an expert on stuttering and any kind of like mental issues that might cause that. But if you don't stutter in your native language, but you stutter in English, then the problem is about how well you understand the language, I would guess. Yes, try your best at Call of Duty, for sure. Let's see. Pang says, teacher, what's the best way to improve our English? we get to the end of, what is this now? 100 minutes, and we're getting that question. All right, let me sum this up for everybody because I'm losing my voice and I have to drink my Suntory no oishii tennensui desu yo. Very delicious. All right. Remember, I want you all to understand this very quickly. Many people think, they assume, they have the assumption, they guess that they get fluent because they can speak. All right, so fluency comes from being able to speak. What I'm saying is that actually fluency comes from how well you understand the language. So instead of trying to repeat things to yourself or to other people, you should just be getting exposed to lots more English that makes the language understandable. And this is just helping you understand even individual words and phrases in context so that you can understand those things. Now, I've got lots of videos on the channel, like the espresso video. I've already talked about that. But anytime you feel more confident that you understand something, that's how you're actually enabling your ability to speak. Because for most people, actually really for everybody, if we think we're going to communicate incorrectly, if we think we will make a mistake or we're unsure about how to say something, we have doubts about pronunciation or grammar, then we will not speak. So the speaking ability is the result of how well you understand the language. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's see. Observatorio says, so can I learn English only watching movies and videos like this? I worry because I don't know if I'm wasting my time and I don't have anyone to practice with. Well, this is an experiment you can try for yourself. I want you to take a month and then try to do things in however you think you should get fluent. So if you think you're going to get fluent in a different way, if you think you will get fluent by repeating yourself, or trying to find people to talk with or doing traditional lessons, then give that a try. You have probably tried that for years already, I'm guessing. Most of the people who find my channel, like they've already been trying to learn for a long time and they still can't speak, okay? So that tells you it's probably not a good way to learn. What I'm saying is actually a much easier, more comfortable, faster process. It's just get input that helps you understand the language better. All right, that's it. And as you understand the language more, you will feel more confident because you will think you will communicate correctly. And then you speak. Okay, so what I'm recommending, so after you try doing the traditional way for a month or whatever, and you've probably been doing that already, but if you have been doing that, when you stop doing that, if it doesn't work, and it probably won't work, but if it does, great. If not, then try what I'm recommending, which is just trying to understand the language better. And it's not about only watching videos or something like that. You get input from all over the place. You could read books or articles, or you could listen to things. The point is it should be all in English that's understandable. So lessons that are understandable in English. And when I say lesson, it just means the input itself. You're not actually taking a class or something. It's just, you could be watching a video on YouTube about how to make a birthday cake. And it's a lesson. It's not like a typical English lesson, but it's just watching somebody, okay, here's how to make a cake. We're going to take the eggs and we put them in the bowl and we mix it up like that. We have a video about that right on our own channel, how to make a carrot cake. So I had a friend of mine come over to my house and we made a carrot cake. And so you can see what that's like and how it works. And when you learn that way, you feel more confident because you understand the language better. And that's when you speak. All right. So don't worry about forcing yourself and you will know that very quickly. So even with one example, I give you, I don't have my, here's a blue marker. I'll give you my last very quick Japanese lesson that I like to give. So I'm going to teach you some Japanese all in Japanese. I'm going to make the language understandable and teach you Japanese as a first language rather than try to translate it for you. Okay? これはマーカー。マーカー、マーカー、マーカー、マーカー。黒、黒いマーカー。赤、黒、赤。青、黒いマーカー。赤いマーカー。青いマーカー。財布、財布。お金が入ってるね。財布、財布。黒いマーカー、黒い財布。赤違う。赤じゃない。赤。黒。黒。黒。Okay? Does that make sense? So if I could continue teaching you like that every day, you would get fluent in Japanese very quickly, very easily, without you needing to say anything. But when you felt comfortable, maybe the first lesson you're oh, that's kind of fast. I'm kind of following Drew. Maybe I don't remember everything he said. That's okay. You don't need to learn everything in the first lesson. Just like when you're a baby, your parents are giving you more information every day. And it's been months and years, and then you finally speak. Okay? But very quickly, I would get you speaking in Japanese just because you would feel confident. But what I don't do is try to say repeat after me, because you're going to hear me say it and you're going to worry about your pronunciation or your grammar or something like that. But as you get more examples that help you understand the language as a first language, so I'm not translating, I'm not trying to use English or some other language to teach you Japanese, I'm just teaching you Japanese in Japanese. I'm making it understandable, okay? And this works whether I'm doing something physical like this or at a higher level where I'm telling you a story or something, because you already understand a lot of the language, all right? But that's how it works. So you're teaching and you're learning within the language itself, but it just needs to be understandable, and you get lots of examples that really help you understand the language. That's how it works. So if your way does not work, and you're still struggling to speak after you try your way, come back and try my way and see if it works. And I'm pretty confident it will help you too, because we all get fluent the same way. All right. All right, it looks like we're at the end over here. Louis says, hi, I'm late. Well, you're early for the replay. Let's put it that way. All right, let's see. And then it says you really deserve a rest, but do not go before you give us the next session. Thanks a lot. God bless you. Let's see. Wow, you're doing live. Thank you, man. This is greetings from the Philippines. Glad to hear it. Yes, so the next video, the next live should probably be next Monday. Yes, next Monday, my time in Japan. So right now it is Thursday morning. So the next video should be on Monday morning, my time, I believe. But if I'm not, don't like shoot me or anything. But it should probably be next Monday. I was thinking about doing a video about words you don't need to use anymore. Maybe that's interesting for you. Maybe it's not. I guess we will see. But hopefully this makes sense. This is really the most important video or the most important idea for understanding fluency. All right. Missing the beginning, but catch it in the end. Really appreciate for your response. It's my pleasure. All right. And nice to see, let's see, English tenses. Yeah, we covered that already. And again, that's another thing that you learn by getting these examples. This is what we do in Fluent for Life. So if you would like to learn more about that, I'm still trying to get better at explaining how the program works. Or at least like how you should be fluent. But if anything is not clear about this, the basic idea is that when you understand, you can speak. All right? Because you need to feel confident about the language before you open your mouth. All right? It's really that simple. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Fluent for Life or Frederick, you can click on the links in the description below this video. And I should see you next Monday, Japan time. What day is that? I don't know. Let me see. That is the 18th, I believe. So Monday, the 18th, around the same time, which is like maybe about 10 in the morning, something like that. And yes, click the like button. And if you know other people who still struggle to speak and they would like to speak English fluently, let them know. It's a simple idea. Hey, just understand the language better, and that will automatically help you speak. Lester, in the word identity, what is the better in its pronunciation, with or without the T? Yeah, you can say both of those. Identity or identity. You will, like, typically American speakers will say identity, because it's just faster and easier to say. All right, but this is why we get lots of examples. So you can hear British people say it one way and other people say it another way. But again, if you'd like to hear me pronounce over 2,000 words and sentences, get Frederick. It's right in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video. Should be Monday. Tell your friends, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.